Shaktipath, the thunderbolt, the flame of awakening. The process of awakening the human being is very complicated. The idea of Shaktipath is what would have to be called the ancient way. The descent of the energy of awakening applied personally to your consciousness at every level of being. In spiritual thought, the ideation of being is said to cover three conditioned spheres of being: what we would call body, speech and mind, what we refer to as body, speech and mind. In the Yoga Tantra, the idea of the human form is one of four bodies: the physical body of matter, subtle physical body of energy, the causal body of mind and mental formation, and the fourth body of pure consciousness, called sometimes the Rupa, the Self, the Blue Pearl. Study here in the center is very dynamic, very intense, in that, as the idea of the thunderbolt implies, one's being is struck all at once with the essence, the vibration of awakening itself. It's important to understand that this thunderbolt does not come from outside of you, but more accurately it arises from within you. In its present condition, it is dormant in a condition of potential. The idea of Shaktipath is to stir it into activity. The experience of this stirring of the thunderbolt, which arises at the deepest place in self, instantaneously touches and transforms every aspect of being. And in that same instant, multiple pathways of transformation and evolution are set in motion. Those pathways correlating with these different spheres of being of matter in the physical body, the subtle body, and its architecture of energy, the causal body of mind and the concept of mental formation, and the fourth state, the fourth body, the recognition of one's true being, true self, and beyond which lies infinite universal consciousness. The process of awakening is much like being turned inside out. Because while we are oriented almost 99.9% to the architecture of our physical body, the operation of the senses and the structure of the ego, which is the first reflex of mind, the most familiar reflex of this vast field of consciousness, they are very intensely and complexly intertwined with each other. It's not so much like it's a clean break from here to here is the body, from here to here is energy, from here to here is the mind. They all weave together. In the pre-Shaktipath condition, the conglomerate structure of being, all of the components of self that amount and arise as the physical body, all of the components of self that arise in the structure of the energy body, the dynamics of the mental body, and the formation, reflexes of formation in the mental body are in a bound condition. Basic premises of false understanding and ignorance having been set in motion and acted upon produce a flow of force and a flow of cause that deepens the bondage to the false understanding of self and the false recognition of self. This is the law of karma, the law of cause and effect, where each action generates a result and an effect that in turn becomes the basis and seed for future action and future results. This produces the kind of snowballing effect that sets one in motion to an ever-increasingly bound condition of false understanding, false recognition, producing the kind of bondage to suffering. This idea of shucked path carries with it a very deep and profound message of recognition of true path where one can be set. One's situation can be reset so that these binding conditions of cause and effect can quite literally be disentangled. But as there are three layers of conditioned body: physical body, subtle physical body, and mental body, there are also three spheres of action of this disentangling energy. This quality of purification, which is the dynamic activity of the awakening process, that which has arisen in a bound condition, must be disentangled, unwound. And so you can begin to think in terms of the study arising in these three spheres of effect as a countervailing force of this bondage. In this first sphere we have the dynamics of spiritual life, the recognition that suffering exists, the taking on and admitting and recognizing one's situation. Much of this is behavioral in that we begin to see that there are certain qualities and actions that produce and intensify the effect of bondage in our lives, and we slowly come to understand their nature and we begin to eliminate them from our sphere of activity. The dynamics of hatred, lust, greed, jealousy, envy, anger, the powerful serpents of ignorance that are the cause of negative action and negative emotion. And we begin as an act of will to replace them with their countervailing positive angels' love, generosity, kindness, compassion, patience, forbearance. And we slowly but surely change our mode of behavior, which changes the quality of our actions and begins to change the quality of our karma, going from a darker to a lighter quality of karma. Instead of winding on dark and negative karma, we begin to improve the quality of karma that we wind on. We're still winding on karma, but it's a higher quality. This is the sphere of ethical behavior. Really taking a look at our actions and the sources of our actions and really following through and seeing what kind of fruit they generate. Thinking about them, analyzing them, and changing them out of our own sense of self-conviction, our understanding. The constant daily work of self-inquiry. What are you doing? Why am I doing this? What was I thinking? What was my hope? What was my intent? What was the result? This way you gain a familiarity with yourself. Because by the time you begin incarnating as a human being, you are in the middle of a very long movie. And there have been acts and acts and acts that in previous movies and previous plays, the results of which are appearing in this life. And so you must very decisively reach into yourself and come to know yourself. This level of behavioral study, I would say, comes under the heading of Bodhicitta, awakened mind. And Bodhicitta, awakened mind, arises in various levels, but for a basic thumbnail idea there is relative Bodhicitta. This is the form of awakened mind that applies itself to daily events, to daily psychological and emotional conditions, to modes of behavior, and to the various causes that we give rise to in the form of emotions. Cause emotions are the igniters of thought, and emotions and thoughts are the igniters of action. and you have to get very familiar with all of those streams within yourself to come to truly know who you are, what you're capable of. In this way, there is an overarching super angel of behavioral study, and that is honesty. One of the things that you come to understand about yourself is that you're the only witness, true witness of your own heart, of your own mind, and you can put up all kinds of excuses and tell all kinds of stories. The problem with that, of course, is that everyone finds out is that if you tell enough stories, it's very easy to lose track of the truth. And then not even you can remember what it was that you thought you were doing. And so you start to. You have to get into the habit of honesty. And it is a habit you have to form. And this gets you into the action of the relative bodhicitta, wherein with every situation you have a choice to play to the dark side or play to the light. And you make your choice accordingly based on your own self-interest and what you understand your self-interest to be. And you very methodically and patiently begin to replace your emotional and psychological aggregates from the darker triggers of behavior to the angels of light. It's an endless job, like tending a garden. There's always weeds growing up and they have to be pulled. This basic self-inquiry is what brings you in contact with the path. You begin to become aware of a presence of truth within yourself. This is the bodhicitta, the awakened mind, the awakened heart that is self-luminous, self-born. It has never not existed, but has been veiled over by the fruit of your bound condition. As you begin to pay attention to it with continuous intensity, you begin to get a sense for it. You begin to feel its radiance and it becomes a pole star. It is this awareness of this radiant presence that is how one becomes aware of the path. Becomes a force within you that you are always aware of. It is a pole star and a touchstone. And once you gain access to that contact, you begin to see that there is a very direct correlation of acting in negative patterns of behavior piles karma on, increases the darkness within, increases suffering within yourself and those around you, and the simple act of just doing the right thing, whatever it may be, and of course it takes true wisdom to know the right thing is in every situation, which has the opposite effect of clearing away inner darkness, decreasing suffering within yourself, decreasing suffering in others, uplifting yourself and uplifting others. It's the nature of the path.